Good morning. It is June 12th, about 8 a.m. in the morning. Um, got an email this morning from a neighbor. Friend here lives easy walking distance from my house that I met through kind of outreach through our neighborhood leader, the neighborhood leader work that I do. And anyway, this email it's interesting, and I wanted to answer. I was over at his place yesterday, trying to help him get a webcam working so he could participate in our, Thursday morning read of the week things more easily. And anyway, he sent me a email this morning. I guess after he and I were working on that together, he must have watched something about the March for Our Lives rally that happened in Portland, and asked how we get the young people involved. And that's been on my mind a lot. Actually, I feel a little guilty, or people were asking here in Tillamook County whether the Democrats were going to do anything to organize a March for Our Lives rally, or whether anyone was doing that. And I didn't hear anything about it. And maybe we should have shown some leadership there, but anyway, we didn't. I'm glad there were other rallies and that some of our people paid attention to them. Anyway, Joe wanted to know how we get the young people involved, and I really don't know. It is quite true that the Democratic Party in this area, probably in most areas, is heavily weighted. The active members tend to be older people like me, retired people who've got enough time to invest in this kind of organizing work. That's probably the time factor, though, I think is probably not the whole story. I expect there are lots of other factors that kind of keep younger people, make it feel not so welcoming. I think we try as best we can to be as welcoming to new people who want to get involved with the party as we possibly can be. But there are things that I think we just don't do as well as we could. And I would love to hear your thoughts about that. How do we get the young people involved? I guess my own opinion about that is that we don't really have much chance of doing that by changing our, what we call our messaging. I don't really like that term, but I've been reading a lot about the problems with the Democratic Party's messaging lately, and it just makes me want to put my head down on the table. And anyway, I don't think that changing our messaging is the way that we get more young people involved. I would guess that what we probably need to do is give young people more of a chance to be heard and show more willingness to listen. Like I, in particular, I am interested, because this March for Our Lives thing was about gun safety, guns in schools, school shootings, I guess. I'm interested in knowing whether students in Tillamook County, if you go to public schools here, do you feel safe? What is, if you don't, what is it that makes you feel unsafe? I would like to know the answer to that. And if you would write to me, my email address is chair@tillcodems.org. I'd like to know the answer to that. And, if you'd be willing to speak, and you can say exactly how you want to do it. We can make it as private as you want it or as public as you want it. I think there are a lot of Tillamook County Democrats who would like to know, do you feel safe? What makes you feel unsafe? What do you think might make you feel safer? when you go to school. Personally, I feel safe where I live, and I am, I'm around a lot of guns. Personally, I don't own a gun, probably should, but I, because so many of my neighbors own guns, I feel kind of protected. I was actually out last night near just 100 yards from the home of the friend who sent me the email this morning. And Republican friend of mine who lives nearby is out walking his dog, and he stopped me. He said, "Hey, I've heard that we've got coyotes." And, talked about some neighbors who'd seen coyotes, and my wife and I have goats. And anyway, apparently coyotes are being seen in our neighborhood. And this Republican friend of mine said that he hoped I wouldn't be alarmed. He wanted people in our neighborhood not to be alarmed because he was going to start carrying a high-powered rifle around because he was on the lookout for these coyotes. And he's concerned about my goats, I think, in large part. And he also has a little bit of livestock. And that kind of thing actually makes me feel safer, to know that there are people in the neighborhood with guns. But I think the root of that feeling of safety is knowing these people, because I have gotten to know my neighbors. I trust them. I really, I love some of my neighbors. And I think that may be what the origin of safety is, my guess. And that's one of the things that we primarily work on as Tillamook County Democrats. And I think the Democratic Party is waking up to the necessity of this all across the country, that this connection, a lot in the technical circles, the people who are working a lot on helping us with our messaging, that kind of thing. What they're calling this is deep canvassing, which is another thing I don't really like to, it's just a poor term for what this is. I think what it really is getting to know our neighbors and listening. My guess is if we do more of that, we're all going to feel a lot safer, whether they have guns or not. Maybe we'll be glad that they do. I know there's a problem with too many. Just living in a sea of guns is not healthy. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying doesn't really make all that much difference. What I'd like to hear is what you have to say. So send me an email, chair@tilcodems.org. I sure would like to hear.